If you're exhausted and not getting the sleep you need, you've got to dial in your circadian rhythm, or you're going to make yourself so much worse. I'm Dr. Jenny DeFranken, naturopathic physician, primary care doctor in the state of Oregon, and I want to share with you today some of my clinic notes. Last week I had a patient come in and ask me a really good question. She's in her 30s. She's actually a healing professional, health professional herself. She's had to step back from her work so that she can take care of her health and her chronic disease. She has multiple different symptoms. She's got a lot of gut problems. She had insomnia. She had chronic fatigue. She had, she has allergies. She's got like a whole pile of things that we're working on. And she's doing a great job, making huge strides in her health. But she had a setback. She had a sick family member, and then after he got well, she was able to do some traveling, and it just threw off her system. The thing is, she had gotten used to having good sleep. In the work that she had done, she'd figured out how to dial in her sleep and get it better. And now that it was off, she was really noticing how it was impacting her health. And this day that we met in the morning, and she was so tired. And she had this great question for me, and it's one that other people ask, which is why I want to share it with you. She said, how do I get my circadian rhythm back on track? I have the day off today. I don't know if I should just stay in bed or on the couch and rest, or should I push myself all day and not sleep so I sleep better tonight? Should I take a nap? If so, for how long? She just didn't know what to do. So we talked about it, and as I was discussing the steps with her, I realized that this can help so many of us, because a lot of us go through some point when our circadian rhythm gets thrown off. What that means is that we go to bed when we're tired and we can't sleep, or we don't stay asleep, or we wake up in the morning and we're still exhausted in the daytime, and we have that experience of being tired and wired, where you're tired at nighttime, but too wired to sleep. These are all signs of your circadian rhythm being thrown off. So I want to share with you some great tips on how it is that you can get that back dialed in. Now, the thing is, the reason this is so important is that we have a lot of studies now that show how dangerous it is for our bodies to not get enough good rest. And we know that if we get less than 7 hours of sleep a night, we have an increase in inflammation in our body, particularly our interleukin 6 gets much higher. When our interleukin 6 is high, it's also easier for us to experience anxiety. It's purely physiological. When your interleukin 6 goes up, your anxiety goes up. And guess what? If you're high on anxiety, it is really hard to sleep at night. So it becomes a vicious cycle. You can see how this plays in. There are studies showing that women who have chronic fatigue have much higher inflammatory mediators in their blood if they report having bad sleep. We see that there's a huge increase in cytokines, and we're seeing now that there's a lot of feedback that may be interacting with people who have chronic viruses, and that's altering their sleep pattern. And indeed, when I see people who are in my wheelhouse with chronic fatigue, burnout, long COVID, I see a lot of these people with really poor sleep cycles. And part of the main health foundation we need to dial in is their sleep, so that they can get that inflammation down and get a strong foothold, a strong foundation, so that all the other good things that they're doing can make a difference, which is exactly what our patient wanted to do. The one that I was talking to last week, she's like, I know I need to get my sleep dialed in so that all the food that I'm eating and all the supplements I'm taking can really have the good effect that I know that they can have. So what is it that you can do so that you can improve your sleep and reset your very own circadian rhythm? So 3 concepts here that I want to share with you. Number 1, there's no such thing as one size fits all in medicine or clothing. It just isn't true. My friend is size 0. Her clothes don't fit me and mine don't fit her. Same thing with medicine. What somebody else does is not the same what you need to do. So what I want to offer you today are some things that you can do so that you can experiment with your own body and get the feedback for yourself. Use your body as a biofeedback tool and figure out what works for you so that you can then implement your strategies for your unique self to get the results that you want. And the second concept here is that you need to assess where you are now, because it's only by assessing where you are now that you're going to know if you've made a difference or not. So I want you to just do a quick assessment. How is your sleep right now? Do you feel like it's great? You know, if it's like an 8 to a 10, you can go to sleep at night, you sleep through the night, you wake up in the morning refreshed, it's an 8 out of 10, that's great. If you feel like you are waking up some nights, you know, a few nights a week, or you have a hard time going to sleep a few nights a week, or you wake up super early, like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and you don't need to be up till 6:30 or 8, then maybe you're between the 4 and 6. And if you're every single night, you know, you are struggling with sleep and you fear going to bed because you know that it's going to be a struggle, then you're down there in the kind of the 0 to 2 mark. So place yourself on the scale and assess where you are and just write down a few notes, you know, after you listen to this, write down a few notes about your sleep and how it is now. And then once you start out with some of these practices, you can go back and reassess and see how things are different. We have terrible memories for suffering. So it's very important that we go ahead and write down how you're feeling now so you can make a good judgment in your experiment as to what worked and didn't work. Especially if you're tired, because if you're tired, your brain doesn't work, your memory sucks, and you feel irritable, and you just may, you know, you may think that things aren't working when they are because you're tired, or vice versa. You may be like, just get a little bit more sleep and think, okay, that's all I have to do. The best way to reset your circadian rhythm is to actually set a schedule in your day. So basically eat at the same time, get up at the same time, go to bed at the same time, and do any kind of exercise that you're able to do at the same time. That's the number one best way to reset your circadian rhythm throughout a day. Now the question is, should you nap? And this was my patient's question. Should I take a nap? Should I lie around in bed all day? Now, the truth is that for most people, lying around in bed all day or being a couch potato is like one of the worst things you could do. Now, unless you're super, super sick or you're healing from an injury and you know that that's all you can do, I totally get you. I've been there myself, so I understand what that's like. If you're there, then the rules are slightly different for you, and I'll tell you how they're different in just a minute. But for most of us who are able to be up and around, but we're just feeling really blah and exhausted in a day, it's not a good idea just to lie around. It's much better to actually have some kind of movement in your day, some kind of deep breathing. If you can't do any kind of exercise, at least do some deep breathing. And it is a good idea for most of us to take a nap, but you need to experiment and see what works for you. So here's the rules with napping, and this is what I talked to my patient about. So napping rules. So number one, it cannot interrupt your nighttime sleep. So you need to find out what are your really good nap windows. Most of us have a time in the day when napping is great for us. And you need to use your nap window and rest during that time. The second thing about naps is you need to make sure that it actually makes you feel better. Some of you have already, I can hear you thinking from here. Some of you have already said, oh man, naps make me feel so much worse. I hate napping. I feel terrible when I take a nap. If that's you, then you can cross naps off the list, or you can experiment with napping for a different amount of time. Some people do well with cat naps. That's when you just nap for 10 minutes or 20 minutes. You just stay in this very light sleep level, and you're kind of more like drowsing a little bit, and that can be a really great reset for some, and you didn't get into the really deep sleep. Other people really need to get into a complete sleep cycle to actually get the point where they get the tissue repair and the resetting of the brain that happens when you've had a full sleep cycle, which happens around 90 minutes. So some of you need a full hour and a half, some of you need 10 to 15 minutes, and some of you just need a half an hour or 45 minutes. Again, you get to experiment with what you need. And then the third thing I'd say about naps, now in general, is it's better to have your nap before 1:30 in the day. So you need to lie down before 1:30. You can lie down at 1:30, but usually before that if you go to bed around 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. Obviously, I already said it, it's not one size fits all. So you get to experiment and see what works for you. But these are general rules that are really important to follow so that you can actually use napping as a way to reset your circadian rhythm without blowing it off the map. If you're I had another patient who made the mistake of taking these 2 or 3 hour naps at 5 o'clock at night. She's like, oh, Dr. Jenny, I'm so tired. I lie down at 5 o'clock to watch the news and I fall asleep for 3 hours on the couch. And then I'm up till 2 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, no. You're doing it all wrong. You need to take that nap earlier in the day. All right. So then after you've started to take these naps and to rest and you've reset your circadian rhythm for the day, then go ahead and do an assessment and see what's happening to your energy. Is your energy shifting? Is your sleep improving? Are you able to go to bed at night and fall asleep better? Often what I find is that sleep begets sleep. When people are super sleep deprived, it becomes harder and harder to fall asleep at nighttime. There's a lot of different reasons for this. One of them is that your cortisol levels may be completely out of whack, which is very common when people have disrupted circadian rhythms. And it's very common for a lot of us who are dealing with stress, burnout, chronic fatigue, long COVID, is that the hypothalamic pituitary axis is not functioning in the normal way. The mistakes I don't want you to make are these. I don't want you to get impatient. It takes time to heal. You're making a shift in your body. It probably took you a while to get to this disrupted state. It may take a while for you to get your circadian rhythm back into balance. And it may even take a few days or a few weeks for you to experiment to see what works for you in terms of whether you can nap, what time you need to go to bed, what time you need to get up. So be patient with yourself. Love yourself in this process and know you're doing a really good thing for yourself. The other one is, as I mentioned, it's sleeping too late or too long for your naps and blowing out your nighttime schedule. So please don't make that mistake. The other mistake is not addressing the other root causes that may be causing you to have circadian rhythm problems and insomnia. So if you try these strategies and it's not enough, then you need to dig in a little bit deeper, which is why I want to invite you to come join me to the itty bitty little workshop to help you sleep better. This is a 90-minute workshop where you get to have spend a little bit of time and a little bit of money and get huge results in your health in terms of helping you reset your sleep. So if you're interested, go ahead and sign up down below. I would love to see you there. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe. That way YouTube likes me better, and it is great because more people get to see this content, and that makes me happier. If you're struggling with chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, long COVID, and you want some tips for you, check out my program below. And if you are a geek or a practitioner, I've got a program that has all of the research notes. Speaking of research notes, if you want the research notes I read to write this little thing, then check out below. It's just down there. Go ahead and press the link. Cannot wait to see you. Remember, you always have the power within you to change and help your body heal. So go ahead and tap in, do the work you know you need to do so that you can be feeling better today. Dr. Jenny DeFanken here, reminding you to love. I'll see you there.